2020 predictions. So U.S. economic outlook, these are the 2020. So this is the same chart that I showed you before. For the GDP, the predictions are that it might go down a little bit to 1.6%. Non-farm job growth, 0.8%. Unemployment to go a little bit up to 3.9%, which is still quite low. The consumer price index to stay about the same at 2%, and real disposable income percent change to stay about the same, to do about the same amount of change. California economic outlook, slides here, but basically unemployment to maybe go up a little bit again, as with the US, to 4.5%. The population is expected to grow at 0.4%. So it's been gradually decreasing the rate at which it increases here, but we're expected to go to about 40 million, a little over 40 million in 2020. A lot of people. That's a lot of people. Existing home sales. So what I did was actually, I've been reading a lot of the different experts out there for what their predictions are and try to contrast and compare them. So that's what I did here. So existing home sales volume, NAR, which is a National Association of Realtors, they are predicting a modest growth, 4% growth of 5.6 million units, meaning 5.6 million homes to be sold. Realtor.com is expecting a 1.8% decrease to 5.23 million. And then Zillow just says to continue to climb, albeit slowly. So they're not committing themselves to a number. And the main factor when you talk about existing home sales, again, is inventory. That's the word of 2020. It has been for a while, but that's definitely something that came up again and again. Regardless of what the predictions are, it's all tempered by inventory levels. The median sale price for existing homes, NAR, the National Association of Realtors, predicts the median sale price to continue to grow moderately at 4.3%, which is similar to last year. Realtor.com expects a flattening market with an increase of 0.8%, so pretty much the same. Redfin is a little more bullish. They're saying we think it's going to be a 6% increase in the first half of the year and then adjust it down in the second half of the year, so we'll end up about 3%. And then Zillow is expecting a 2.8% increase compared to the 3.6% that they expected for 2019. So a smaller increase. So again, similar stuff that we're saying. 30-year fixed mortgage rate. So NAR is expecting this to remain below 4% in 2020, moving to 3.8% by the end of the year. Realtor.com believes that it's going to be averaging around 3.85% and end around 3.88%, still under 4. Redfin expects it to hover around 3.8%, not to fall lower than 3.5% if the economy weakens. If it does weaken, then even if it weakens, if it goes up at all, like if it's stronger and for some reason there's an adjustment to let it go higher, they're not expecting it to go any higher than 4.1%. And then Fannie Mae says rates to remain within similarly a tight range of approximately 3.7% all the way through 2021. So all pretty similar, right? You're getting the whole feel of it. They're expecting it to be pretty much a little below 4 and staying about there. So other real estate news and trends, and I just thought this would be an interesting topic because it's something that will come up a lot within this year. Housing affordability and density issues. So as I showed in the previous slide, housing, we do not have enough and it is not affordable. Less than 20% can afford to actually buy a house in the area. So those will become issues. ADUs are the accessory dwelling units. That's something that the state has been pushing. They did allow for it, and they've been making other changes to even the ADU ordinance that was originally passed to make it easier and easier for people to build it and harder for cities to restrict it. So, yes?
Harder to get contractors done in the state.
It could be harder because of
Competition.
Harder to get contractors because they're busy.
Right.
So definitely they're getting busier trying to build the ADUs. And we will do an ADU seminar later this year, but they are trying to actually make it so that it's easier to build it And there are modular options. There are a whole bunch of different things out there. So we will have those as well. And the state is encouraging that as much as possible. Every city in the county has an ADU ordinance specific to them, except for Millbrae, where I'm from. But we say, hey, we knew that the state was going to change it, so that's why we were just waiting for them to fine-tune their state's ordinance, because some of the cities now have to go back and whatever the state said, some of those things they can't, the rules that they put in place, like lot sizes or parking requirements or unit sizes, those are all much more lenient toward the ADUs. So there's that. SB 50, which has to do with, who's heard of this, the density housing? Okay, Chris is great. Do you want to? No, but it's basically a state ordinance that didn't pass, but they're going to keep trying for it, which is to encourage or to make it so that cities are required to allow for more dense housing near transit stations, transit centers. So that means, even if it was a single family zoning, you have to be able to allow for more units to be built. So you'll see more of the high rises. That's the trend that we're all going in. Millbrae will probably, within the next couple of years, we'll be seeing that whole BART station area will be completely changed. So, and we're seeing that everywhere up and down the peninsula, right, where they're building high density housing near the transit centers. So this state ordinance was to try to make it so to force the local jurisdictions, or to not give them a choice in with their own zoning codes. So there was a lot of pushback to that, because many of the cities were saying, hey, we're not one size fits all. We should be able to make those decisions, because it's going to impact our neighborhoods. But the other side of it is there's not enough housing. And so where is the most natural place to build dense housing? It's going to be near the transit stations. So we'll see a lot of those issues coming up. Proposition 13, there is an amendment that is going on the ballot in November. This is specific to only impact commercial properties. So people are saying, well, it shouldn't affect the housing. And we'll talk about the ballot later this year, because some people are saying, well, it's a slippery slope. Once you say it's going to be commercial properties, then it might go on toward residential. So there's a lot of that talk. iBuyer options. Who's heard of iBuyer options? Anybody else? Yes. I believe it does, but 5 units or more. Thank you.
So is that going to push the price down?
It's not going to push the price down, but what it does is basically say that it could make your property taxes go up. So because now you no longer have, so Proposition 13 limits the rate at which your property taxes can increase every year. Right, so that's basically what it does, and commercial property has been included in that. And the whole, what people are saying is that was not a good thing to do at the time, or they're trying to make up for that and say now the commercial properties should not be able to have that exclusion or be able to have that limit on property tax increases, because they're making a lot of money. So that's the rationale behind it. And we'll go into it more in detail in our future seminars. So. We'll see what happens. There are a lot of pros and cons to it that are out there. And they are actually trying to, I can't remember who sponsored this amendment, but they're actually trying to amend the amendment before it goes on the ballot. So I don't have what's actually going to be on there at this time. iBuyer options, this is where you go online and basically you'll have a company that will send you an email. I know my father actually got one. They'll send you an email and they'll offer to buy your home from you. And so they'll do it, and it's similar to, in the past, we've had investors that will come in and say, okay, I'm gonna buy your ugly house. There's an uglyhouses.com. I'm gonna buy your ugly house. You don't have to worry about cleaning it up. You can stay for a few months if you need that time. And then we'll just buy it from you cash. You don't have to worry about contingencies. You don't have to worry about putting it on the market. We'll sell it for you really quick. You tell us when you want to close, and then boom, you're done. And then they'll come in, buy it once you move out, fix it up, and flip it and turn it around. Well, that's basically what iBuyer is doing, but it's going tech. So places like Redfin is into it. Coldwell Banker has partnered up with another I have it somewhere here, but they've partnered up with a company to try to do that. Open Door is an online portal, so if you actually go online, you can put in your address, and they will send you an email and tell you this is how much we'll offer you for your home. And you can tell us what date do you want to, I actually went partway through it. What date do you want to move? And then they'll give you an initial offer on your house. And then they say, well, we want to see what it looks like before we give you the final offer. On average, so this has been around for a couple years now, on average, the other thing they do is they say, you don't need to pay commission to the real estate agent, so you get to save. They don't tell you upfront that you pay, on average, about 11% service fee to them. So, you save on your realtor fees, but you're paying an 11% service fee to them. So on average, the offers tend to be less than the market value, and you have the service fee. So the studies have found that homeowners tend to lose about at least 11% in selling their home in that route. But some people may find that still attractive because of other reasons, not the price, right? Because if your price has already gone way up, you don't really need that, but you're more concerned about not having to put it on the market, being able to have that flexibility of when you want to close escrow and when you move out. To some people that might be an attractive option, but it's not a big part of the industry. But more and more companies are jumping on that because it just sounds fun, right, to people. So what will often happen is that they will partner up with a regular with a normal real estate brokerage, and then if you decide not to go that route, they will kind of connect you with a real estate agent to go the traditional route. But you'll see that. Climate change will have an impact on the real estate market, especially on insurance. So that's going to be a big topic in the future. Right now, there's a study that said $268 billion of property is at risk of wildfires. And over the wildfires in 2018, it was $11 billion loss with all the fires that happened there. There are some insurance companies that are actually moving out of California, some that have just increased the premiums, and so that increases the cost of living here. So many different issues involved with that. Gig economy workers. So gig economy meaning the Uber drivers and all of those Airbnb. Gig economy workers make up 30% of the workforce right now, which is kind of incredible when I read that. So that's interesting because the way that you show your pay is very different, right? So you have people who are on the TaskRabbits and the Handies and different things like that. So the way you show your pay is going to be very different. So the lending guidelines, they're trying to shift to somehow account for that, to be able to give you credit for that. So there's some movement in that direction. And then the last one I'm just going to bring up here, there are many other issues, but California will be a majority renter state as a whole by 2025. So I'll show you this. Majority renter state by 2025. This graph is from 2017, and it's showing Hawthorne. I think Hawthorne's in Southern California. 76% consists of renters. And then when you get to I don't see our area here. We're not even on here at this point, so I think we're fine. But this is mostly Southern California. Maybe I grabbed the wrong slide, but it's mostly Southern California. But in general, the predictions are by 2025, we will be, as a state, majority renters. And why? And that's good in some sense, but that's also, we have to be careful because what that will mean is that, as you know, there have been different legislations to limit what landlords can do, right? And so those like rent control, and there are a lot of pros and cons to different ways that rent control has been done. But if you have more renters who are voting, then you're going to have it skew more and more. The legislation could skew more and more toward the tenants versus the landlords. There are a lot of bad landlords, but there are a lot of good landlords out there. We were talking about that earlier. And what's difficult for people is, it's your private property that you've purchased and you're building up your portfolio, and then to have regulation come in and limit what you can do with it can be difficult. So right now, I think we've been okay, but San Francisco has, since their rent control, they've had a worse housing situation worse housing supply than before. So, you have to do it. Everybody agrees housing needs to be affordable. We need more of it. The disagreement comes from how do we bring that about? And if you have a majority who are tenants, and if they're just saying, well, just keep the rents low, and that'll solve everything, that doesn't solve everything. And so it's something that we need to just be aware of. Again, I think there are ways that we all, that we need to handle this situation.